And then you got up off the couch and you went to bed, and you said that was around midnight.
Midnight.
And nothing was unusual at that point.
So
Everything seemed okay.
there's actually a piece of
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello, and a warm welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Besides the obvious similarities, both cases, the Summer Wells case and the Sebastian Rogers case, they're missing children in Tennessee, and both children missing for a long time. There are several additional, some might say sinister, parallels that Sebastian Rogers shares with Summer Wells. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So the 6 similarities. Number 1, you have the patriarch who works in construction. He was far afield at the time of the incident. That applies in both cases. The patriarch also contacts law enforcement even though he wasn't at the scene. Number 2, like Sebastian, Summer seemed to have some sort of developmental issue. We know from her Sabbath day teacher, Robin, that Summer would sort of cling to her and wouldn't sit down. So there seemed to be a somewhat high maintenance aspect to Summer, just as there was with Sebastian. Number 3, the Wells family were struggling financially. It's possible, and so the question is, were the Proudfoots as well? And I do think it's possible the fact that Chris was working on weekends and living in an RV meant they were struggling to make ends meet as well. I'm also not sure what the costs are of the medical costs are of raising a child with autism. I would imagine that there are additional expenses. Number 4, the patriarch takes control of the narrative in both cases, while the mother seems to take a passive role. Number 5, Summer and Sebastian were both apparently inside their respective homes, but on their own when they disappeared. Number 6, no sign of forced entry and no screams are heard. Also, no barking of dogs. Now, if there are a number of similarities, there are almost a similar number of differences. 6, in fact. So let's go through them. Number 1, sexual aspect. While it's unconfirmed, there seemed to be a potential sexual element to the Summer Wells case, which doesn't seem to be the case here, other than that Sebastian was a teenager when he disappeared. Number 2, a third party, a youngster we refer to as Macbeth, was present with Candace on the day Summer disappeared. In Sebastian's case, there were really only 2 occupants in the home. Substances seem to be an important factor in the Wells case, whereas it's unclear if they are a factor whatsoever in the Sebastian Rogers case. Number 4, the ages of the victims are starkly different. The one was, I think, 5 years old and the other one 15 years old. Number 5, time of disappearance. So there's a difference both in the sort of more global sense and in the more specific sense. Summer disappeared in the late afternoon in the middle of summer, whereas Sebastian went missing much later in the evening, but then also much earlier in the year, basically still in the winter time. Number 6, at least one of Summer Wells' parents has a criminal record, whereas the Proudfoots don't seem to have any criminal record whatsoever. So there you have it. What would you say? Do you think Sebastian and Summer are more similar or more different? Now, other news that's sort of come in is this idea that the Proudfoots and Sebastian's biological father, Seth Rogers, have kind of put aside their differences and are sort of coming forward in a united front. And although that is commendable if it's true, I haven't seen any photos of the three of them together. Now, apparently, there was a vigil yesterday, and one news channel has covered it, newschannel9.com, and there were people at the scene of this vigil, and there are certainly no photos showing the three parents together, which I think is kind of a pity, because what you really want to see is how obvious that is, that there is a kind of united front. Now, I think there's also another way of thinking about it, that it's actually taken almost 8 weeks, right? It's taken almost 8 weeks for the parents to actually come together. And I kind of have my doubts whether it's sincere and whether it's sort of real. But if you think about it, even if it is real, the fact that it's taken 8 weeks to sort of get serious about Sebastian ROGERS, to put their differences aside and, jointly appeal for the public's help, seems to me to suggest that there wasn't there some kind of enmity, some kind of problem between the two to begin with. I do know that Sebastian ROGERS' father, Seth, said that a full 2-week period went by where he hadn't heard from the parents, meaning the Proudfoots, at all. He hadn't heard from them at all. Another aspect where I think one could certainly ask a few questions is, you could examine the relationship between the, ex-partners, Katie and Seth. You could examine that, and also between Seth and Chris. You could examine that. But I think another relationship that I think one needs to think about is the relationship between Katie and Chris. Were there any problems there? And what about Chris's prior marriage? And didn't he have a child with someone as well? And isn't there a custody issue going on with someone as well? That is a dimension we know very little about. Now, if you think about the Gabby Petito case, you had kind of two sets of parents coming forward and putting in a united sort of appearance, two parents that are the biological parents, but then two of the other parents that are nevertheless standing by their partners. And so in this case, where is Seth's partner? Does he have a partner? And then also, what happened in the backstory of Chris Proudfoot? Who was his former partner? In any event, I'm not going to take it further than that. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think this case is more similar to the Summer Wells case or dissimilar? Some people have said that the true crime community are kind of sticky taping the template of the Summer Wells case onto this one. And, that works if they are similar, but doesn't work if they're not. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.